Always from the heart of the city, and now on demand 24/7 on the CHFI website. This is the soundtrack to Patterns. And I'm Don Jackson with lovers and other strangers around the world on the internet. Jen often said that what we perceive to be coincidences are in fact carefully placed tiles in a mosaic pattern, the rest of which we can't apprehend. Now Mickey sensed that intricate mosaic, vast and panoramic and mysterious. Unquote. An excerpt from One Door Away from Heaven by Dean R. Koontz, published in 2003 by Bantam. Listen to the complex patterns in this background music called White Kites by Jim LeMarche. One of the most elegant theories currently being subscribed to by science and astronomy is the string theory. It's a bit too complicated to get into here, but I think it merits intense study. Sir James Hopwood Jeans in Physics and Philosophy, published in 1942, wrote, "Physics tries to discover the pattern of events which controls the phenomena we observe, but we can never know what this pattern means or how it originates. And even if some superior intelligence were to tell us, we should find the explanation unintelligible." This hour, Patterns, with lovers and other strangers, from CHFI.com. Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Sophie B. Hawkins, As I Lay Me Down, and Lonestar, and I'm Already There. There are things in that wallpaper that nobody knows about but me, or ever will. Behind that outside pattern, the dim shapes get clearer every day. It is always the same shape, only very numerous. And it is like a woman stooping down and creeping about behind that pattern. An excerpt from The Yellow Wallpaper by Charlotte Perkins Gilman, published in 1892. A horror novelist some years back speculated about a mystery woven within the threads of a large Persian carpet. I have a large oriental rug in the family room just up the stairs from my home office. I've often looked at that intricate weave and the delicate patterns and wondered what might be hiding between the threads. In the book playback by Sir George Martin, the producer of the Beatles, he said this about the late George Harrison, and I quote, "I always compare his recording work to the life of a Persian carpet maker who handcrafts an exquisite design with 100 stitches to the inch." George was like that, infinitely patient, a fine craftsman, always confident that he was producing the right thing. Sir George Martin from the book Playback, about the late George Harrison. Let's unravel some of the threads with lovers and other strangers from CHFI.com. Lights to Drive My Soul and the Beatles featuring George Harrison with Something. Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Thule Kupferberg wrote, "When patterns are broken, new worlds emerge." Have you seen the films Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and Hero that starred Jet Li? In the latter film, there are many beautifully photographed sequences highlighting exquisite patterns and colors. For example, the extravagant calligraphy in elaborate swirls of sand by the master calligrapher, and the servant girl or the apprentice who uses a long-handled wooden slat to erase what the master has created. It is said in the film that one Chinese character can be written 19 ways. The scene where the artist grabs an arrow in flight, breaks off the end, and uses it to draw in the sand. The mistress who uses her gown of silk to deflect a swarm of arrows, or the scene when two women in red fight while the leaves of what seems like a forest of trees are falling softly and silently to the ground around them. Or the sequence in the palace with lime green billowing drapery, drapes that flutter in the breeze like the sails of an ancient sailing ship, and the assassin hiding somewhere within them. And one of the final scenes in the film when the master calligrapher uses the vast desert sands as his background to write two words, "Our Land." I recently ran across a book called Lee, Dynamic Form in Nature by David Wade, and as it said in the QPB paperback book review dated March 04, and I quote, "Li is a Chinese term for the inherent pattern of things. From sand swirls to the delicate frost on a window pane, Li illustrates our world's hidden connections. How, for one, the network of cracks in dried mud bears a startling resemblance to the markings of a giraffe. Soap bubbles form a somewhat irregular, polygonal pattern, surprisingly not unlike the lattice-like retroform divisions on an insect wing. Both are examples of nature's remarkable range of surface patterns known as Li." Unquote. I've often wondered about the phenomena of crop circles. I know, some are elaborate hoaxes perpetrated by small groups of people in the darkest hours of night. But there are some that are not so easily explained away. If you take what the author of Lee is saying could be true, then there might be some natural explanation for these complex and beautiful patterns developing on their own by a purely natural force that we are unaware of. Here's another beautiful example. Freeman J. Dyson, in Infinite in All Directions, published by HarperCollins, wrote, "The world of biology is full of miracles, but nothing I have seen is as miraculous as the metamorphosis of the monarch caterpillar. Its brain is a speck of neural tissue, yet with this microscopic clump of nerve cells, it knows how to manage new legs and wings, to walk, to fly, to find its way to Mexico. How are behavior patterns programmed into the genes of the caterpillar and then translated into the neural pathways of the butterfly? These are mysteries that biologists are far from understanding. The monarch is proof that nature's imagination is richer than our own." Unquote. Lovers and Other Strangers from CHFI.com. Jordin sparks with a sometimes complicated pattern, a tattoo. My wife and I volunteered for an SEC fundraiser at my son's school a few weeks back. An airbrush tattoo artist was there, and my wife had a Chinese character put on her arm, since the money was going to a good cause. It translates very dangerous. Or at least we hope that's what it really says. Al Stewart, The Year of the Cat, and Sheryl Crow with Sting always on your side. Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes. and CHFI.com. Home is where one starts from. As we grow older, the world becomes stranger, the pattern more complicated, of dead and living. T.S. Eliot from 4 Quartets, published in 1940. My son and daughter learned all about patterning in their math classes. It was a subject that seemed foreign to me. I don't remember learning that concept at such a young age. Pierce Vince Eckhart, and quoted in the Points to Ponder column of the January 97 issue of the Reader's Digest, said, and I quote, "When I was a Boy Scout, we played a game when new scouts joined the troop. We lined up chairs in a pattern, creating an obstacle course through which the new scouts, blindfolded, were supposed to maneuver. The scoutmaster gave them a few moments to study the pattern before our adventure began. But as soon as the victims were blindfolded, the rest of us quietly removed the chairs." I think life is like this game. Perhaps we spend our lives avoiding obstacles we have created for ourselves, and that in reality exist only in our minds. We're afraid to apply for that job, take violin lessons, call an old friend, whatever it is that we would really like to do but don't because of perceived obstacles. Don't avoid any chairs until you can run smack into one. And if you do, at least you'll have a place to sit down. Pierce Vince Eckhart, in a past issue of the Reader's Digest. CHFI.com. Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Michael Buble, Headed Back Home. We are not hen's eggs, or bananas, or clothespins, to be counted off by the dozen. Down to the last detail, we are all different. Everyone has his own fingerprints. Recognize and rejoice in that endless variety. The white light of the divine purpose streams down from heaven to be broken up by these human prisms into all the colors of the rainbow. Take your own color in the pattern and be just that. Variety by Charles R. Brown. Lovers and Other Strangers from CHFI.com. Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Ray Charles with a pattern of moonlight through the pines in Georgia. Celine Dion with a color of my love, and Phil Collins, True Colors, as well. Anne Morrow Lindbergh from Gift from the Sea, published by Pantheon, wrote, and I quote, "A good relationship has a pattern like a dance and is built on some of the same rules. The partners do not need to hold on tightly because they move confidently in the same pattern. Intricate, but swift and free, like a country dance of Mozart's. To touch heavily would arrest the pattern and freeze the movement. To check the endlessly changing beauty of its unfolding. There is no place here for the possessive clutch, the clinging arm, the heavy hand. Now arm in arm, face to face, back to back, it does not matter which, because they know they are partners moving to the same rhythm, creating a pattern together, and being invisibly nourished by it. Anne Morrow Lindbergh from Gift from the Sea, published by Pantheon. It was Henry Ward Beecher, the poet, who wrote, "We sleep, but the loom of life never stops, and the pattern which was weaving when the sun went down is weaving when it comes up tomorrow." Lovers and Other Strangers from CHFI.com. Good night, sweet dreams. I'm Don Jackson.